Update is at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good Chicago morning. I'm John Anthony, host of Black and White Radio. Heard every Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. right here on these airwaves, joined by my longtime friend and confidant, and sometimes Charles Thomas, former ABC 7 reporter. Charles, we're in the last hour, brother. This day flew by, man.
Yeah, man. This is a long show, but man, it's flying by because there's just so much to talk about this morning. Really, this week, this has been an incredible 2 weeks.
It really has
in America.
And as I stated before the break, Charles, I really believe this immigration debacle is going to hurt Kamala Harris in more ways than one.
Let me say something real quick. You know, over the past 50 years, when you talk about being a black man in America, I can think of two instances where black people have really got the short end of the stick. One was the 1994 crime bill, which led to the mass incarceration of black men in this country. And then there's the open borders policy, which is taking away resources that would be used by the black community, as well as including housing and as well as just out and out doling out money.
Yeah.
Think about these two instances. Joe Biden, by the way, was involved in both of them. But if there is any reason to reject the Democrat Party this year in 2024, it is this open borders policy, which is stealing from
so many resources
and disrupting the struggle of black people.
And it's not just black people; it's the entirety of our country.
Exactly. You know, but black people in particular, because they go so whole hog for the Democrat Party. They got to understand what's going on here. These people are not on your side. They are replacing you.
Right. And Charles, remember, Joe Biden appointed Kamala Harris as the border czar, or I believe it was in 2021. Now, her job was to get the border under control. Because remember, initially they were saying, we have no problem, we have no problem. Kamala didn't even go to the border. I mean, she had not even been to the border. And you are the vice president of the United States of America, and you are now the border czar. Listen to what she had to say.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
Joining us to discuss this and more is Chris T. Clem. He's the former Yuma Sector Border Patrol Chief. Chris, welcome to Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, gentlemen. Boy, I tell you what, I am happy to be on here, and I loved the discussion y'all were just having because there's so much to say to sink our teeth in because it's been such a problem for so long under this administration.
Now, Chris, I've read a couple of reports where it said that, now, you and I both know Kamala is the border czar. Now, is it true she has not spoken to the former Border Patrol chief and now the current Border Patrol chief? She's yet to meet with them and have discussions with them about what's happening at the border, which she's over?
Yeah, that's true. I know both the former chief, Raul Ortiz, very well, and I know the current chief, Jason Owens, very well. I was a border chief down on the southwest border, not only in El Paso, Yuma, but I was also the deputy chief in El Paso and Big Bend, Texas. I was the chief down there for a few months. Look, with this crisis, when you have the problems we've had at the border, it's made all the headlines for the last several years. Even the last few years of Trump, it was making headlines. We never had Biden or Harris come down till the pressure got on them, and she made one trip to the border, and that was a facilitated, through a processing center, not at the actual line, with Democratic Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, and they spent more of their time at the non-government organization migrant advocacy group. So it wasn't about border security. It was about making a field trip down there to say, I went to the border. But again, guys, I'm ready to tell you about the numbers. Let me tell you what happened under this border czar, It's crazy.
Please do. Charles, you got a question?
No, I'm good, man.
Oh, okay.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
a couple things you guys brought up, and I think it's so important to foot stomp what you just brought up. I think it was Charles, and for your audience to understand. Not only are minorities and just people across the country impacted by the 7, 8, 9 million that have come in that have been arrested and mostly released, but look, down in Yuma, Arizona, where I spent my last 2 years of my career as a chief patrol agent, the food bank was completely obliterated because everybody was putting things to the migrants, to the non-government organization. There are, last year alone, 700 unique families, meaning new families that were signing up to get food from the food shelter that they hadn't fully restocked because everything that this policy has done, and all the shelves were empty because they were helping the migrant flow there in Yuma.
Wow.
3 weeks ago, I was in Macomb County, Michigan, and a group of volunteers from Flint, Michigan, mainly African American youth from about 18 to 30, where we asked them, how is this impacting us? And they're like, we're having to wait for our services because they brought in migrants that are being housed over here. And so, I mean, this is a real deal. So whether it's conservative Southwest border families that are hurting in the border, or people up in Michigan that are hurting, this migrant crisis, what has happened is open border policies have impacted Americans from the border to Michigan and around the country. And that's just with allowing the migrants to come in here that are here illegally, that have been released, that are impacting services. And you guys have seen the headlines where they were making demands in Denver of the things that they wanted. I mean, we can't. Charity starts at home, man. We have got to take care of our own people who are struggling before we bring in. I want to help out. I want to be that beacon of hope, but we've got to get things right for Americans who are suffering, where our homeless children, hungry children, veterans, our own citizenry who are suffering need to get taken care of, or at least given the opportunity first before we start bringing in millions more.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, and again, one more thing, guys, and I want to prompt this for you guys. It's more than an immigration issue. It is a public safety and national security issue, and that is a betrayal by this administration. Whether it's the president or the vice president, it doesn't matter. They are the number 1 and 2 people in charge of this country to protect us, and the national security and public safety problems we've had are falling squarely on their shoulders any way you cut it.
Yeah, you just stole my thunder because I just wrote down, how is this not a national security issue? When you look at the numbers, how many people have actually crossed our borders? And not just the people, I get it. People want a better life. I get that. I'm more concerned about those people that are using this as a cover to come into our nation and do God knows what damage across the United States of America. How many of those people, those bad actors, do you believe have gotten through and have the potential to destroy America? Yeah, well, it only takes one, to set a chain of events. But to your point, you have about 90% of the people that come in are currently claiming that they are seeking some kind of relief or asylum. They don't meet the basic tenets of it, but by our policies and the policies of this administration, they've allowed them to stay until they get that hearing, which has been anywhere from 4 to 7 years out. So they're kind of in a no man's land for the next few years. And we have no idea what their intentions are because we can't vet them. They say they're vetted, but if there's no information, they're coming from a country we have no relationship with. We don't know who they are other than when we take their fingerprints, and if they're not arrested or have a record here in the United States, we don't know who they are. So we have to take them for what they're worth, and they end up getting placed in removal proceedings, but that means they get released into the country. So we don't know what their intent is unless we are able to discover that upon apprehension. You have the other groups of people that are actually evading us. Like, why on earth, if you were just coming here for a better life, under this administration where we catch you and release you and give you opportunities, why would you run away from the Border Patrol? And that is my concern.
because the Border Patrol has reported close to 1.9 million gotaways, people that have gotten away from the Border Patrol so far under this administration. Now, one more thing, or a couple more things on that. The number of criminals that we've arrested at the border are a quarter to 25 to 50% higher than what we did combined under the Trump administration. So statistically speaking, there's going to be, we've caught more, but there's also going to be more in those gotaways. And then lastly, the most concerning is over 370 people that have been caught on the terrorist screening database. So we know that, again, statistically speaking, there's going to be that type of people that would be in that gotaway mix. And then, in the 1st of June, I think there was 8 ISIS-K nexus Tajikistanis that were caught in Philadelphia, New York, and L.A., people that have come into this United States illegally. And thank goodness our law enforcement were able to run down that plot before something happened. So it is real. It is a problem. And look, we can go down a laundry list of the heinous crimes that have been committed that have made the headlines, the Laken Rileys, the Jocelyn's, the Rachel Morans, and the list goes on and on and on. That is impacting America. Yeah, and that's the problem.
Trump highlighted a lot of them at the RNC convention. I'm sorry, go ahead, Charles.
So do you have to have ID when you come to the border? That you're a migrant? You have to have some kind of identification?
No. So if you're coming in lawfully through the port of entry, you would apply, and you would hope you would have some kind of identification. But oftentimes they get exploited during their journey to the border, and it gets stolen from them. And they have to just tell the officer at the port who they are, what they are, and we do the biometric screening. If you come across illegally where Border Patrol would catch you, no, a lot of them do have ID. They've traveled. They use that as their basic fundamental ID. But honestly, what is happening, just presenting themselves, they don't have to have ID.
Wow.
Which is crazy, because we give them their official paperwork when they've been processed. They basically are getting released on their own recognizance. That has been approved as an official government document for them to traverse the country. I travel a lot out of the Tucson, Phoenix area, and I've been on planes and watched 10 or 15 board that are like, these people literally just crossed within the last 72 hours. I'm in TSA pre-check, and they just got to walk right in front of me and pass through. But you and I are waiting in line, even if we're paid to get to pre-check. We're still waiting in line, and they're letting these people pass through. It is really unbelievable what has transpired. And I will tell this, look, I don't ever broad brush a country or a race or a culture, because that's unfair. I wouldn't want them to do it to me.
Right.
But we've also had about 50,000 Chinese nationals come in illegally in the last 18 months, and that is our major geopolitical foe. And even if 1% of them are subject to coercion and espionage against this country, that's a problem. This is a national security and public safety issue first.
Right.
Get the border controlled, get it secured, put the policies and the practices back in place the way we had them, and then start cleaning up the immigration backlog. Because when you do that, you can make America safe, you can make our borders more secure, and give our border patrons a better chance of doing their job. And that will mitigate some of the crimes that we're seeing. And again, it puts America first, which is nothing wrong with that. When we put America first, we can take care of the world. But if we can't take care of ourselves, then we expect to take care of anybody else.
Yeah, Chris, we got about a minute and a half. I saw a video from Ben Barkram. He did a video, and he showed that you spoke about the Chinese. He did a video showing that they actually have a hotel. There's language. They have the hotel food eateries now right by the California border. Is that true reporting?
Yeah, those things are happening. Look, this is so organized, so well organized by smuggling organizations, cartels, even the country of China, right? Because you just can't leave China. You got to be allowed to leave China. And so this is all well organized. They're paying a lot of money, especially the Chinese nationals. Probably upwards to $10,000-$15,000 a minimum to get across to the organizations. And so it's all completely set up. It's facilitated. And the way the practice has been put in place and the policies under this administration is the U.S. government is actually completing the smuggling cycle. Because now the bad guys just have to get the migrants to the border, get them into the hands of Border Patrol, either by making them give up or push them through and up and over the gaps in the wall, and then we facilitate the rest of it, and we release them. So this is solely on the shoulders of the president, the vice president, and this administration. They can't shirk the responsibility. You can't say, "Oh, that's not my job." That somebody,
right.
Your boss tells you to do something, you go, "That's not my job." You don't really last very long, and that's what I've already heard people trying to defend the vice president. It's like, no, It doesn't matter. You're the number 2 in the executive branch responsible for protecting America, and it's been a betrayal on the border for sure.
Yeah, Chris, I'm going to get your contact information because I would love to have you on my show, Black and Right, on a Saturday, because you're full of knowledge and wealth of information. I really appreciate you joining us this morning, Chris Clem, former Yuma Sector Border Patrol Chief. Thanks so much for joining us on Chicago Morning Answer today.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Great.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
You've heard me talk a long time about the great cell phone service I get from Pure Talk, my cell phone company, versus the cost of Verizon, AT&T,